Okay, so I'm really glad to be here. This is the first talk of this kind that I'm giving, so hopefully it'll work out. I'm counting on you to participate and contribute your own ideas. I'm so glad to see you here, Kira. I know you can give us a lot of wonderful advice. Okay, so the title is Making the Most of It, an algorithmic approach to effort. And the idea is that the purpose of the workshop is to create a space for support and promotion of underrepresented genders. And the way I interpreted this is that we can together kind of amplify each other's efforts, whether it's research efforts, career efforts, inclusion efforts, and we can kind of have a collective experience from which we learn, and this way we can make an effort that's better guided. So here's one example. We have in our neighborhood a network of parents. Basically, from what I saw, it's all moms, but it's open to any parent. And the kind of questions that I see there, like daily, this is a real question. Where can I order a custom frosting sheet for tomorrow at 8 a.m.? This was asked during a holiday, okay? So we're all busy parents. I guess this mom realized she had to have some birthday cake for the morning after, or maybe judging from what my kids do sometimes. I mean, maybe she had a frosting sheet, but with the wrong character. The child suddenly decides you want a different character, and of course we do everything for our kids. And I would never think that this would be possible, but somebody answered, since it's a holiday, most places will be closed, but try this business owner, she might make an exception, and feel free to mention I referred you. Okay, so she actually gave contact details and a referral. And I think, the same way we do this, and it seems, I don't know, it's amazing to me. It seems like this has so much value. People do this for free. I mean, and they put a lot of time into this. Anytime you ask a question, they give an answer. And I try to do this as well. And I think we all do the same thing in our professional network. If you decide to apply last minute to a fellowship, people around you will understand. It happens, and they will try to refer you. Another example is the power of support. So this is from The Onion. It's kind of old, yeah, but maybe you've seen it going around. So the evening quickly turned into a total rager. This is like friends spending a night out, girls' night out, or any gender night out, and sharing excessive amounts of admiration, empathy, and encouragement for one another. And I don't know, this is like my own experience. I return from these evenings with my friends just feeling so much better about, everything, and including work. And I guess we somehow do the same in our professional world. For example, I found myself, telling a student recently about the CV of failures. Have you all heard of this? Some haven't. So if you haven't, I encourage you to look this up. It is so funny. It's this economist who decided to put, instead of your standard CV, the CV of failures. The idea is that failures are usually totally invisible to others. And here he makes it very visible. And I love that the last line on the CV of failures is that, he lists a bunch of, things he applied to and was rejected, and a bunch of jobs he didn't get. And the last line is like, this CV of failures got me more attention than all of my other work. Okay, so here's my plan for this talk. This is the prompt, so I tried to follow it. Teach the audience about your research. So I have a short section that's kind of teaching the contract model. I feel like it's going to be something we can go over quickly with this audience, especially after Maya's wonderful talk. Convey ideas that might help others in their own research, process trajectory, career trajectory, and inclusion. So I have a list of 3 ideas that I found helpful. Use case studies from your own work and make it interactive. Okay, so the way that I plan to talk is totally copying Kira's talk from last year. I will start with my backstory, 1 slide, and then do a short introduction. I have a slide on possible relevance of contract design to gender inclusion, which I'm really interested to hear what you think about. And then I have 3 ideas I find useful, plus case studies from my own work. I might show 2 results depending on how things go, 1 older result, 1 new result. And then hopefully the most interesting part will be the crowdsourced part where you guys will contribute your own case studies. Okay, so my backstory, how I became interested in incentivizing effort. I think anybody who's working in, on contract theory and they're in hindsight, as I'll say when I describe this slide, there've been this has been kind of rediscovered a few times. So each person has their story. You can ask Michal about her own story later, for example, Moshe, etc. My story is that Michael Bernstein, who I knew from our joint work at ACM Student Magazine, joined Stanford HCI, Human Computer Interaction Department, or group, sorry, the CS department. And among his research agendas, he was interested in designing systems that support collaborative effort and nudge towards ideal team structures. So he was actually building these systems. And then I had this aha moment where I realized, up till now, I've been only looking at auctions. And this also requires incentive design. And I wrote this research proposal on it and never pursued it. In 2016, the Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded to contract design. And this was really what enabled us to start working on this. Suddenly, all these scary economics papers that were really unreadable to me and are still, to a large extent, unreadable to me, became accessible because the scientific background of the Nobel Prize is written in an amazingly clear way. And it's also very persuasive. So it was easier to persuade others that this was interesting. And also the fact that, it got the Nobel Prize. We started collaborating with Paul Duding and Tim Rofgarden, and we slowly found out that there were early pioneering works in the same direction. Moshe Noam and Michal's paper, which was super early. I bet it will win a Test of Time Award sometime in this conference, but I don't know, this is just my bet. Balmaceda et al., Host Livskins Vagan, Tzai Daskalakis and Papadimitriou, and many others a few others, not many, but a few others that I'm not mentioning here. And we really started to realize the breadth of the algorithmic potential. Okay, so I have now a short intro into contract design. Who doesn't feel familiar with this model? Okay, so it's a few people. I will go over this very quickly. So what's a contract? Just as an example to keep in mind, even if you don't follow the model that I'll show, this is kind of a scenario that is familiar. You want to get someone to do something for you, to put in effort for you. In the example on the slide, you're a brand and you want to hire a content creator. And of course, this requires effort. And you will need to pay for that effort. But what you see is not the effort that was invested. You see the outcome, and the outcome is noisy. Okay, so maybe the content creator wrote something about your brand or created a video or something, and you see the number of views and the number of clicks, but you don't really see how much effort went into that. And the question is, how should you pay? Okay, based on this noisy outcome. And in the second part of the talk, I'll mention a research direction I'm excited about. What if the content creator is in AI? I mean, is contract design relevant to incentivizing AI to work better for us? Basically, the contract is the economic tool, the tool that economists studied for aligning the incentives of a principal who has a project and wants to get an agent to invest effort into it. The contract works by specifying payments for the effort's noisy outcomes. The effort is hidden, and this creates what's called a moral hazard, which is basically that the agent wants to appear as if they're investing a lot of effort, but actually not invest that much effort. And the payments are not necessarily monetary, so this will apply also to, incentivizing your students to put in actual work rather than just try to game the system to get good grades. Okay. The theory, I mean, it's amazing. It's deep. It's amazing. What I want to say in this slide is that also the practice is important. We see that, oh, sorry, how did I get to this slide? Oh, okay, here it is. No. So we see that there have been studies that looked into the quality of work that freelancers put in online and have shown that the contract matters. Here what you see on the slide is just some anecdotal evidence where people say things like, if you hire somebody to write content for you on Fiverr, then they will just, it doesn't feel like they're putting in a real effort. They're churning out as much content as possible. You never know what you're going to get. There are other solutions to this besides designing carefully the contractual payments. There are commendation and reputation systems. There's the legal system. You can try to, sue. But this is, of course, it has a lot of problems. It's much better if you can align the interests to begin with, then that's, to me, that's the most straightforward thing to try. So here's the model, and I'll go over it quickly, sorry. This slide holds the entire setting, and then I'll show you what a contract is. So in the setting, there's the agent and the principal, the two players. The agent has the actions and actions. You can think of these as effort levels, and each of them has a cost. And the actions lead to outcomes. And the way that they lead to outcomes is that there is some distribution. Okay, the action AI induces a distribution. Oh, wow, okay. The action induces a distribution over the outcomes. And we will denote this by capital F I. This is the distribution for action I, and Fij is the probability of getting outcome J if the agent plays action I. The principal will get a reward. Each outcome is associated with a reward. These are denoted by R1 to Rm. And that's it. That's the setting. So the setting is the costs that the agent can take for the different actions. It's the rewards that the principal can get for the different outcomes. And it's the distributions that are mapping between these two. Some useful notation is that capital R1, Ri will be the expected reward that the agent gets for playing action I. And I can also talk about welfare. So if the agent is taking action I, then the welfare is the reward that this action generates, the expected reward this action generates, minus the cost for this action. Okay, questions about the setting? Here's an example. You can see on the rows the different actions. Here there are two actions. You can see on the column the different rewards. Here there are two rewards. And you can see that the rows contain distributions. Okay, so if the agent is not working, in this case, with probability 1, they'll get the lower, the bad outcome, okay, the reward of 0 for the principal. And if the agent is working, then they're likely to get the high reward for the principal with probability 0.9, but there is some small probability, 0.1, that their efforts fail, okay? So this is very much mirrors real life. Okay, and I also put the expected rewards and the welfare for each one of the actions. So the contract will be payments for each one of the outcomes. I'm denoting this by a vector T with one payment for each one of the outcomes, and the payments have to be non-negative. And now you can see what the agent and the principal want to do. Once the contract is set, the agent can just choose the action that maximizes their expected utility. Okay, this is the expected payment they get for that action minus the cost that they have to invest to take that action. And the principal has a revenue from each contract that they design. So they get their expected, if the agent chooses action AI, if they're incentivizes to choose action AI given contract T, then the principal will get the expected revenue the expected reward, sorry, from action I minus the expected payment that they committed to when they committed to the contract. Okay, this is a useful picture to keep in mind. You have your welfare pie. There's one for each action. Okay, so the contract will pick which welfare pie is going to be realized because it incentivizes the agent to take some action. And then the contract also divides the welfare pie, well, where one part goes to the principal as revenue, and one part stays. The agent has the leftovers as their utility. Okay, this slide always leaves me wanting some pie. Okay. A contract is optimal if it maximizes the principal's revenue, and a contract is linear if it's just defined by one parameter, alpha. Okay, so the payment is alpha times the reward, meaning that a linear contract is telling the agent, if you take an action and this action leads to reward Rj, you'll get alpha of this reward, maybe half of this reward. Okay, if alpha is half. Here you see in our example from before, you see that if the contract is paying 0 for the bad reward, the bad outcome, and 5 for success, for the good outcome, then the agent will be incentivized to take the second action to really put in effort. In this case, the principal's revenue is the welfare, the full welfare. Any questions about the setting? Okay. Good. So this is a summary of the model that I think I can skip. Let me say how I think this is maybe connected to gender inclusion. So here's an observation. At the heart of the contract design model, there's an inference problem. Why? Because what you're trying to do is you're looking at the outcome of the agent's efforts, and you're trying to infer, did they work or did they shirk? Okay, this can be made more complex, of course, because there can be multiple actions, but just in the basic setting, okay? Is this outcome more compatible with their working or with their shirking? Okay, and we make this precise in some recent papers I can tell you about later if you want. So I think this is a way to maybe think about imposter syndrome. Is my success due to the fact that I work hard, or did I just get lucky? Did I win the scholarship because I have quality as a researcher, or were they looking to diversify their winner set? And I think if you're systematically inferring the worst option, you're systematically saying to yourself, yeah, it was, I got lucky. So in this case, I think you may have a problem. And maybe bias is similar coming from others, okay? If people look at someone and always attribute her success to some external factor, oh, she has a good advisor, oh, she, she was chosen because they wanted a diverse cohort or whatever, then this seems to me to be maybe the definition of bias. And here I would really want to hear from you. Oh, sorry. Okay, do you agree? Or do you think in a different way about imposter syndrome, biases? How do you address this when you kind of try to when you make an effort to include to fight these kinds of phenomenon?
Should we discuss with each other? Do you want us to raise our hands?
Oh, I think you can either shout out or raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable. I saw a hand raised.
I think this is super interesting. I think something I think about a lot is sort of like the multi-stage aspect, that if something is luck at one point, like how much harder did someone work, or how many more costs did they pay to get to that point? And I think like that would actually be a really interesting question from a modeling perspective if it was, you know, modeled as like a multi-round, you know, process with higher costs, or, you know, more effort has to be exerted. Like overall, how much effort has been exerted, even, you know, like how much harder did someone work, even if there is, you know, luck at one stage in the overall process.
Yeah, I guess similar to that. Yeah, when I see this question of like, is it because of this or is it because of this? Why did I get this good thing? Like, I don't really see it as a binary, right? Like there's so many different, it's like really impossible to like take one fact about someone and think about what the counterfactual will be without that by looking at this one event, right? There are like our identities have shaped us for a long time. And, you know, the reason that one might have won or not won a scholarship, like, yeah, it feels like, yeah, there's like a lot. Yeah, so it's, yeah, I think
dimensions.
Yeah, so I never really know how to think about it, but certainly I don't think that it's a binary question on this specifically.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree that I should have maybe written the slide also with the negative examples, like why did I succeed? Luck? Why did I fail? Oh, I'm not good enough. Yeah.
I feel like sort of also similar to your previous point about how much of sort of failure is invisible, and sort of to Kira's point about how much of like hard work is invisible and how much luck there is. Maybe there's also a factor in like people trying to look for patterns and you trying to look for patterns, and sort of, and it's a very easy thing being sort of people's identity and things that are sort of can potentially try to explain certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of building upon this is when you first told me this, I was first wondering, wait, but is there a hidden action here? Shouldn't I know whether I worked hard or not? But then sometimes you forget, like you don't attribute certain things that you did as hard work that you did, and you need someone else to come and tell you, what are you saying? Like, I saw you like staying up late at night, doing all of this. Are you saying that was not work? So I guess like one way like is to remove the hidden action assumption, like to kind of like open the hidden action and be like, okay, like, and that's how maybe this actually relates.
Yeah.
That is hidden action.
Yeah, and when we say this, it reminds me that always in hindsight, what we prove seems obvious and simple. And this contributes to our forgetting that it was actually hard.
I'm kind of wondering like how these ideas of like hidden actions or information or memory or like all of that might also contribute to different ways of responding to imposter syndrome and bias. So like one response might be to kind of be like, oh, it's just discouraging, so I don't want to work hard, so I'm gonna stop caring. Another might be like, oh, I feel like I need to like kind of overexert myself to like prove myself more. And maybe that also kind of depends on like what you remember, like how you remember things.
Wow, yeah, I totally struggle with this.
One more point for this. I feel like especially I'm thinking about the bias, point about bias you mentioned, because I was connecting back to my example like growing up as a girl, like, you know, doing STEM subjects. Then people will say like, oh yeah, like you are doing well right now, but it's because of like you're hardworking. But for like say boys, maybe they will say, oh, because they have talents. like, yeah, it's like different attribution of
Yeah.
success. And then I'm more thinking about the point that, well, this bias diminishing over time when the other people learn about your true performance. Like say, people who say, it's due to hard work, it's not due to talent. Maybe they see like more women, like, I don't know, succeed in really hard scientific areas, and they can revise their beliefs. I don't know if it's possible to happen in real life. And I guess there's interesting modeling work you can do, like theoretical work you can do, try to tease out this phenomenon, like if at, under what conditions the bias will diminish over time when people learn, or under which conditions the bias might reinforce themselves.
Awesome. So we have a project proposal. Yeah, I want to say that all genders can participate. Okay, so my dad, who will make an appearance in one of the last slides, if I get to them. I was telling him, about my things that I attributed to my gender, and he was like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize I was a woman." So he was like making fun of me that this is kind of universal experiences and really not necessarily related to gender. So please feel free. If you're here, then you can definitely speak up. Yeah.
I want to tie Divya's point with your earlier point on the power of a network. So I feel like my friend network and my professional network is really good at taking away that hidden action part that Divya said. They were really good about reflecting back to me, oh, you have worked so hard, you do deserve this, we see you, whenever I forget. So,
And what do you think about this comment that actually sometimes saying you work hard is also discouraging? Because then you feel like, oh, wow, so I'm going to have to work this hard to get there.
True, yeah. I feel like friends can meet you, good friends meet you wherever you're at and mostly know the right things to say. That's really powerful.
Okay, wonderful. Any more comments?
And the work hard thing I have a comment. So I think I grew up with the same experience that like in high school, it was always like boys having like talent, girls having working hard. And what I learned was that like this mindset of growth mindset is actually like the right thing, like that helped me in different dimensions. Like it's actually fine to work hard for things, and it's like other people even like that are kind of, it's attributed to their talents. It's also they're working hard, but maybe they're just like not showing it as much.
Okay. Okay, nice. So you're saying it's a useful mindset. Yeah.
I think there's the other side where like some people intentionally want to hide their efforts to show that they're talented. So like there's also like some people don't think of effort as a good thing, or like they think of effort as a good thing, but they want to seem effortlessly talented. So it's like there's like misalignment of incentives too, because in one hand you don't want to seem lucky, but you also don't want to. I mean, this is like a pretty childish attitude, but like yeah, that was the case in high school. It's not where like the case for me right now in the university, but yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question.
Called the duck syndrome.
What is it called?
At Stanford, it's called the duck.
The duck syndrome. Oh yeah, that under the water, you're working hard. Yeah.
Bob, I wonder how you think about contracts that are like quote unquote wrong. Because we're like, it's not that if you like try very much and if you put in a lot of work hours, your paper is gonna get published with higher rate. And
Not like that?
I don't think it is.
I think I agree, where I think
It's-
sometimes I'll work really hard and then I spend like one afternoon and I solve it. I don't know, so you're talking about.
Yeah, like it just feels that sometimes like judging
Wow.
the quality of our work or like the quality of us as a person, like forget about it, like judging your self-quality, like shouldn't be based on erroneous contracts that you had no
idea how they were set and who decided them, and they are never like kept. Like there's no centralized principle that guarantees that the contract is gonna be fulfilled. I don't know.
So the question then is like, why is that happening? Is it because we're optimizing for the wrong goal and spending our time in a way we shouldn't, or is it because we're waiting for a moment of creativity?
Yeah, I don't know, like.
And I think both occur, right? Like, I think sometimes, like, I'm working on a grant proposal right now, and like, how much time have I spent on it when I'm like, wait, I should be asking myself a different question to really orient myself to the right thing. And then other times you're like working on a problem and you just like haven't hit the creativity yet, you know?
And there are also just like miss a lot of incentives, right? In, for example, academia, right? So maybe conference reviewing isn't so accurate and great. It could be true. And so, you know, maybe, you know, if you have a really good idea for a paper, you should, I don't know, like spend time turning it into multiple papers. I don't know if this is like a thing people do, right? But one could imagine like some misaligned incentives here.
So contracts for like noisily observed outcomes, there's some sort of corruption in that. Where there's effort into how they're observed as well, there's like another. Right, there's another agent observing the outcome and how much effort do they put into the observing, that's the reviewer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cause there's the agent doing the work and then there's the agent observing the, you know, judging.
Okay, this is a wonderful discussion.
Very interesting, very interesting.
I think I want to show you, I want to hear what you think about these ideas. I think I'm mostly going to skip my case studies, since yours are more interesting. The ideas that I want to talk about are the T model, new areas through team effort, and conversion peaks at second or third impression. Here's the T model. This is something that really, really helped me in my years on the tenure track. So I heard it from Chagita Tia. It was like maybe my first week at the Technion, where I started at the Technion. I completed the 5 years there. I got an offer from Tel Aviv University, and I made a very hard choice to move. I can tell you all about that if you're considering moving institutions, but maybe after the talk. So the idea is like this. You design your research like a T. That is, you have the horizontal line of the T, and that's your breadth, and you have the vertical line of the T, and that's your depth. And that's the way, I mean, that's the way she kind of guided us to have our research look like. And I kind of took this advice, and I really tried to apply it. So during those 5 years, I was working on a bunch of things like robust mechanism design and algorithmic information design and interdependence. But I had like, you know, sparse papers in those directions. Or, you know, maybe one student who I was working on with about that. And then I had algorithmic contract design, which was more like the horizontal line. And it started really small. I mean, you have to grow the line. So it started like by one project. I thought I would tell you a bit about this project, but actually I don't want to waste too much time. Let me show you like 3 slides just to have context. What was our first attempt at algorithmic contract design? So we looked at the problem of why are simple suboptimal contract formats very popular? And we thought we had a wonderful idea for this that economists have not looked at, which is, of course, approximation. So our idea was we will be the first to show that linear contracts, when I say simple popular contracts, I mean linear, those contracts that are defined by just an alpha, just like here's how the principal and the agent will split the rewards. And we said, okay, we're going to show that these are approximately optimal, and or maybe we'll need some conditions, you know, some regularity conditions, but that's what we'll do. I don't have it on the slide, but what I have on the slide is just to say that economists have looked at this question, but we thought, you know, approximation, that's going to be new, and we failed. So we showed that if you have n actions, you can be n factor far away with a linear contract than with an optimal contract. Yeah.
Why is this a failure?
So I think we even maybe submitted that and got rejected. Yes, I think that was something like that. We submitted those results and we were rejected. Yeah, so it was a true failure. It's on my CV of failure. Sorry?
You found the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. And we tried to sell it. Sorry that I'm, but we tried to sell it as, and it's something that I do believe in, that the examples that show a big gap, they're weird. But it wasn't the result that we set out to prove, and it wasn't well accepted well received by the community. So and there was a result by Gabriel Carroll, that said linear contracts are robustly optimal with respect to unknown actions. That is, if the principal knows a set of actions that the agent can choose among, but actually the agent has a bunch of other actions, then what the principal should do to be robustly optimal to the unknown actions is choose a linear contract. And we noticed that there was some built-in robustness of linear this is when we were trying to think what we would do with the rejected paper, and we noticed there was some built-in robustness of linear contracts. The fact that it splits the pie in a way that is totally unrelated to the details of the distribution and only relies on its expectation. Okay, so a linear contract will give 1 minus alpha of the expected reward to the principal, and alpha times the expected reward minus the cost to the agent. And so here we did get a result that I think is interesting and was well received. If you have a contract setting with uncertain distributions and known expectations, so you don't know the distributions, but you do know only the expectations, then a linear contract will maximize the expected revenue in the worst case over the distributions that are compatible with the expectations. Okay, and the interesting takeaway here was that if you don't know something about your setting, then maybe your design should be agnostic to it. That is, however you set the unknown details, the design will get the same expected revenue or whatever you're trying to optimize. Okay, so it worked out here, and later I have a student who kind of looked into more systematically into when this kind of thing is to be expected. Okay, let me skip now a bunch of slides. Wait, skip too many slides. Okay. And what I want to say is that the T model was really helpful and really helped me actually even get tenure, I think, because here's how it went for me. I managed to publish a few papers on algorithmic contract design. Actually, not that many papers, just 5 papers. Or I don't know if it's considered a lot or not a lot, but this is over several years. I also published several papers on other topics. So I had my horizontal line and I had my vertical line. And then I felt ready to apply to this major grant that we have in Europe, which is called the ERC. And if you get that grant, you're guaranteed tenure, basically. That's the way it works in Europe, and it's at least in Israel. I imagine in all of Europe. And what I really showed, I mean, in the grant proposal, I had like 5 chapters for the 5 papers that I already kind of completed, and I knew I had things to say about them. And I also could show that I was independent enough because I had this horizontal line. Yeah, and that was what worked for me. And here's kind of the question for you. I don't know why the picture is not coming up, but I had some picture here on the side, but never mind. The important thing is, I would love to hear from you. Do you also implement the T model? How do you do it? Do you have alternatives in the way that you plan your research? Do you, I mean, my PhD, by the way, was not like this. My PhD was just whatever worked and then tying it together. Yeah, there's some more experienced researchers here. Like Daniela. No, I don't want to put you on the spot. No, sorry. Not really. I'm just curious to know what you do. I mean.
I think, yes. I mean, I'm in a business school. I also recently got tenured. And I think for us it's more What I tell the students at least, that there are two things. You have like a methodology that you're comfortable with and an application area.
Interesting, okay,
And
yeah.
you can do the same application with different methodologies, or you can use the same methodology for different applications, but you should try to at least excel at one of each of these axes.
Ooh.
Just pick one methodology, one application area. Those I guess it's your vertical line of the T, because you'll have many papers in this application area with this methodology, but then you'll also use your methodology for other applications, and you'll have other methodologies in that application, so that would be horizontal.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So maybe it's like 3-dimensional?
Yes. Again, I'm in a business school, so the application part, it's, I guess, more important relatively.
I think others are probably,
I can
Oh,
say
yeah.
like, I'm still a PhD student, so it's more looks like 3 horizontal dots and 3 vertical dots, so.
yeah, no, so as I showed, I mean, my T was not so big.
I mean,
And you have much more resources when you already have your students and they're all kind of working with you.
Can I ask a question? So if you are implementing the T model, how do you choose the vertical line? Is it intentional?
Wow,
Like
yeah, I remember asking myself the same question. So I think the idea is to start building what I mean, in hindsight, start building the horizontal line and then seeing the one that feels like it has the most potential to really, you can envision it becoming, a longer line of papers that makes impact, that's meaningful. Okay. Second idea. And here, what I want to say here basically is I'll show you work that never, like a year ago, I would never, ever think I would have this kind of research. It's something I'm super motivated about, but really knew nothing about before I started to work on it. And of course, the key, I mean, this is not groundbreaking. The key was collaboration. So I knew I wanted to get more into learning. And I saw a lot of potential in contracts and learning. I was especially excited about the way that contract design can help with alignment. I didn't exactly think about this in these words before I started to work on it, but how can it help an AI agent that you're delegating a job to really work to do a good job? And especially given that machine learning is so noisy and black box nature, and you don't really know what's going on. So I had high motivation. I'll show you a couple slides of motivation, why I got so excited, but I'm really no learning expert. I have a background in theoretical computer science. So my solution was to collaborate all of my papers on contracts and learning. By now there are a few. All of them are through, really true collaborations where we really brought two different areas of research together. And this took stepping way outside my comfort zone. So let me show you quickly the motivation. Oh, I don't have the picture. This is so weird. Okay, so delegated text generation. I read this article about ChatGPT becoming lazy. Okay, this was something that users noticed about ChatGPT around January this year. And it's still not clear why it became lazy, but it started to give short answers or to say to users stuff like go search for yourself or these kinds of things. And of course, this was endlessly amusing, but also a real concern. And this, makes you think if we were to pay companies like OpenAI through some more sensible payment scheme, through a contract, basically, where the quality of the answer that you get really determines how much you pay, then maybe things like this wouldn't happen. And I had some other motivations. This is showing back, good. So a hospital and an AI company interact where the hospital wants to delegate building or training a classifier to detect cancer and is willing to pay $1 million. And the AI company takes the money and gives you back the classifier. And it's totally black box. We have no idea on how many samples it was trained, what exactly went on there, and the classifier is totally inaccurate. You have no idea if this is because they did a terrible job, they took the $1 million and did a terrible job, or they did their best and just the task of detecting cancer is a hard one. And the third example is delegating RL. Here, the agents learn to perform some multi-stage task that involves uncertainty that's delegated to them by a principal. So it's the most, I think, involved setting from the motivating problems that I showed. For example, the principal is a navigation app and it sends agents to explore routes, or the principal is a website and it's sending agents to rate content. Okay, this is a little bit like reviewing. Instructor sending students to study, and this is a multi-stage task, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Or a social planner trying to get AI agents to learn collectively to say clean up or do harvest or something like this. And let me just say, at a very high level, what we did. Let's see what. Okay, the fact that I don't have the pictures is a bit problematic here because I can't show you almost anything. This is too bad. Okay, let me describe the setup, say what we did, and then move on to the discussion. So I did it. So the issue was that I didn't really know any RL. I had a postdoc who did, though, and we collaborated with the other folks. Dima Ivanov is my wonderful postdoc, Paul Duding, who knows a lot about learning, Tonghan Wang, and David Parks, who are also experts. And then we were able to have this finite horizon MDP, in which in every state, the agent has to decide which action to take. And the actions lead stochastically to the next states. So this is just like a regular MDP. But the principal can pay the agent and in this way kind of influence them on which action to take. And the agent's action will get rewards. This is also as usual in MDPs, but the rewards go to the principal. Okay, and we can look at this just at one state, and it's a standard contract design setting. But if you imagine like a whole graph or like a tree or something like this, then it becomes very interesting. And what we showed was a way in which to learn an equilibrium. We showed how to learn a subgame perfect equilibrium by interaction between the principal and the agent. And what I had on the slides for example, here is a bunch of, whoops. Okay. Somewhere on the slides, I had a bunch of graphs with data, things that I'm not usually comfortable with. Bottom line of these slides is that by stepping out of my comfort zone, having wonderful collaborators whom I could get the confidence to do this with, because I knew they would cover the parts that I didn't understand well enough, and vice versa. It got us some very interesting results. And the question for you is, have you ever done this? What do you do when you want to study a new area? Are other reasons that you form new collaborations? How do you do it?